there are people in Connecticut who are Republicans who win, and Rob Sampson is one of them. Just reelected to the state Senate from Wolcott. Hello there, Rob.
Hello there, Todd Feinberg.
Great nice to have you here.
Veterans Day.
We've been and we will continue to talk after we get done with you, Rob, about what's going on with Trump. So we've been talking about that, and I don't mean to pull you into that conversation. I just wanted to let everyone know we will continue once you're done. And we can talk about whatever you want in terms of what you think is top of mind for people to understand after this election. Do you have any guidance for folks or words of wisdom to calm nerves?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing my own thinking and analyzation of what's going on in the state of Connecticut and nationally, and certainly the Trump conversation is important and plays a big role. I think in Connecticut there are some other issues, though. I think that the number one issue is that the Republican Party's identity in the state of Connecticut is very vague at this point. You have candidates across the political spectrum calling themselves Republicans. You have candidates that are wildly pro-life and other ones that are actually taking the Democrats' jargon, protecting reproductive rights when they actually mean abortions on demand up until birth, and still calling themselves Republicans. I think that's a very difficult thing to do. You have significant candidates on the top of the ticket, and I don't really want to call out Bob Stefanowski. I thought he ran a better campaign than he did 4 years ago, but I think it's a mistake to lead your case to win an election based on saying that you're the same as Ned Lamont on subjects like abortion and gun control. And I think it weighed on a lot of our candidates. You need two things, Todd, to win an election as a candidate. You either need a strong brand behind you that you can identify with and that voters can identify with, and then they will know where you're coming from, or you have to have a strong identity yourself. And I've been able to be successful. I won by a huge margin. I won by almost 20 points in my election.
Wow, that's great.
And I attribute that to running a strong campaign and building my own identity in my district. We had a lot of good new candidates running, amazing, phenomenal candidates, but I think it's very difficult to start from scratch and build an identity when you don't have the brand behind you, no matter how good you are. I can think of a lot of people that ran the first time this time, and they knocked on a lot of doors. They were phenomenal candidates, but they just didn't have time to build themselves up. And you combine that with all of this early voting. You got people voting a month ago before those campaigns even took off.
So what is the difference between what you do? Is it just that you've been in office now for, how long has it been? Is it a decade?
Yeah, I was in the House for 4 terms beginning in 2011, and this is my 3rd term in the state Senate now.
Yeah, so you've got your own machinery in place of knowing who your voters are and having contact with them, and they understand how you think, and you explain to them why you do what you do and what the conclusions are, what the mental processes are that get you to where you end up, which is a very liberty-based constitutional kind of place, which is wonderful. But is that transferable to other people? And if so, how do we get other people to adopt it?
Right. Well, I think that, when it comes to political candidates and campaigns, where they stand on issues is actually not the most primary function of getting elected. I wish it was, Todd. Trust me when I tell you. I want to live in a representative republic where the voters are constantly holding their elected officials accountable and demanding the type of policy positions that you and I would agree with, a small government, a constitutional system. But I don't know that really matters, because you'll see candidates all across the spectrum in both parties who are successful.
You're saying it doesn't matter in terms of winning.
Right. Well, and of course, if you're a Republican candidate, it does not matter whether you're Donald Trump or Mitt Romney. You're going to be vilified by the left as if you're Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They turn everyone into some radical extremist. That was the tagline my opponent used against me over and over again, very ineffectively, because I have an identity and he didn't. And the thing is, I'd love to teach many more candidates to have their own brand and their own identity for their success. But the important thing for our republic and for Connecticut is that the Republican Party actually has a brand and an identity that people want to buy. And that's what we have to work on in the state. And you can't have a Republican Party that doesn't have an identity, is not clear on the issues, where the voters are confused.
But that has to do with people running, I guess, statewide as that person you're talking about. So Ron DeSantis, if you listen to his rhetoric, he's very good at establishing parameters about who we are, and he makes them into something that they have to defend. And I think we saw this from Youngkin in Virginia as well, that he was able to pick issues that differentiated Republicans from Democrats in a way that was very positive for Republicans. Are you talking about things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, the Republican Party should stand for small government, low taxes, defending constitutional rights, Second Amendment, and I don't know that we do in every case. We have elected people that vote against those things on a pretty regular basis, and it's a tremendous frustration for me. I know that the Republican Party can't operate like that in the legislature, because we don't. We're all over the place. Imagine a situation, Todd, like 2017, where you have the Republicans actually stick together, pass a budget, and really put the Democrats on their heels, because the Democrats are completely disorganized. But then the next thing happens, which is Malloy vetoes that budget, so we have to go back to the drawing board, and half of the Republicans just join the Democrats and pass the so-called bipartisan budget, with the same budget, by the way, that bailed out the city of Hartford for $550 million and eliminated the property tax credit and so forth. And today, there are Republicans running for high office in this state claiming victory because they voted for that budget. Mm-hmm. But, imagine somebody like me. I led the fight against that budget. How do I go out there, support those people, number one, and how do we have a combined identity, a unity, a brand that we can say the Republicans across the board stand for something when our people in our own party are completely divided?
Yes, because that leaves voters. I mean, the real question is, how can voters discern what a Republican is if the Republicans are all over the place and don't represent something cogent that they can wrap their arms around and hang on to?
Right, and to bring Trump into it, I think the Trump question is really about the notion of a candidate that has his own identity. The thing is, the Democrats have been very, very good about trying to take Trump's identity and put it on every Republican, which is why every candidate for any office, from dog catcher on up to U.S. Senate, is quizzed repeatedly about where they stand on Trump and the 2020 election and so forth, because they feel like that's something they can get one over on these Republicans. Mm-hmm. Republicans have to go back to telling people and telling the press, look, this elections are not about people or identities; they're about ideas. And I want to talk to you about the ideas that I have to move the country forward.
There you go. That's what I want to hear from people running for president. Hang on, Rob Sampson is here. He's the state senator from Wolcott. We will take a break. We'll talk to Rob, and then we'll take some phone calls coming up on WTIC.
It's the Todd Feinberg.
Senator from Wolcott and a Constitution guy, a person who is driven by principles, follows those principles in a clear, linear way that everybody can understand that what you see is what you get, which is not true of most people in elective office and even most people in the Republican Party in the state. Rob, thanks again for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you're totally right, Todd. It's about ideas. That's the most important thing. Socrates, I don't remember the exact quote, but he said that, the smartest people among us talk about ideas, and the dumbest people among us talk about people, and plenty of other people talk about events. I don't remember the exact quote, but that translates perfectly into campaigns and politics. Mm-hmm. People are voting based on personalities. Biden, Trump, DeSantis. They should be voting on ideas. And that's what we have to put forward. And I have a question for every Republican, faithful Republican voter listening, and that is to really ask yourself a basic question, which is, what's more important to you? Is it the victory of the Republican Party, or is it to move the agenda of the policy ideas that you want to see realized? And for me, it's always been trying to move that's the reason why politics exists. And, the Democrats, they get one over on us because they never forget that. They move their agenda all day, every day. They never stop. And Republicans get caught up with, we have to modify our positions to win because it's a blue state. And you know what? That's not winning. Winning is moving your agenda, even if the Democrats do it for you.
Well, the big price that's paid, I think, is that because Republicans feel like they have to compromise in order to survive politically. I think that's what drives them. That the ideas don't get communicated, and then you're not building structures upon which everybody can stand.
The argument for our ideas is not being made. That's exactly what you're saying. When you have candidates that are not fighting for why we want individual liberty or smaller government and explaining why, well, then those arguments are lost. And that's why parts of Connecticut and parts of the country are getting more and more blue all the time, because the Republican candidates are failing at their duty to try and make the case for the Republican agenda. And, it's the one thing we're trying to remind people all the time, that, if we lose it, it's gone forever. It's not like we're going to be able to rekindle it from the ashes. And if we don't have enough people that know these things to teach others, it's going to spiral even more quickly.
So how does one differentiate oneself in a way that this can work? How do Republicans go out there and make an argument that will work when what Democrats are doing is using tax dollars to buy elections? They are funneling money to their core constituencies. That has become, in the state of Connecticut, a wall that gets taller every year and tougher to jump over.
You're absolutely correct. And of course, simultaneously you have the producing population of Connecticut leaving for greener pastures in Florida and South Carolina and so on, and we're simultaneously attracting people that want to participate in a more progressive socialist system that creates dependency on the government. But I still think that there are far more people in Connecticut that would embrace American principles and values over dependency, especially if they understand where that leads, which is to terrible, terrible places, and all you have to do is look at history to discover what that means. So I don't know. The thing to do is to call the Democrats to the carpet for their record. They are a gift. The policies that they have put forward are atrocious, and their record and the failures that you can tie directly to Democrats are numerous. And that's what I do in a campaign, and I do that, number one, by going after them on policy only, not on personal. Remember, ideas, not people. And then being able to defend my own positions, which I think is a major flaw in Republicans in Connecticut, by the way, which is that a lot of times I see people vote the wrong way on bills because they simply do not want to go home to their district and explain why. It's too hard. I voted against a ban on assault weapons because is a very hard sentence unless you know the argument and you understand your principles very clearly.
Well, you've also got to have a way to disseminate it. You've got to have the lines of communication open to your core voters, right?
Absolutely. Well, you've got to work on that every day. We have more ability to communicate with interested voters today than ever. Social media, the internet, I mean, there are so many things you can do, and most politicians run from that. I hold as many town hall forums and coffee hours and things that I can in my district as I possibly can, because my focus has always been the same thing, Todd. I'm trying to teach the people to demand what I want to see for the future. Ideas again. Yeah. And sadly, a lot of people in both parties, they want to have the job and not do the work.
Rob Sampson, it's great to have you there. You are a beacon. You're supposed to say thank you or something like that.
You are the beacon, Todd, not me.
No, I'm just here on the radio, but you go out there and do it the hard way.
Yeah.
So I thank you for doing it, and it's important that you do, and I think everybody benefits. So I wish you'd come on more often, and so everybody can get more familiar with you.
You got it, Todd. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everything you do every day to promote our value system and never hold back.
Rob Sampson, thanks so much.